Yeah, so I work at, I think it's best to start with the agency, and I work at Greene and Heaton, kind of a medium-sized agency, probably there are 6 agents there, and we've been going for 50 years. We started as just as pretty much a straight literary agency, and some of our big clients we've had for the whole 50 years, more or less. So we've got P.D. James, who's been there the whole time, Michael Frayn, and then more recently we've got kind of other big name authors, Sarah Waters, C.J. Sansom, and then we started representing Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall, and that's kind of really changed the business, or added something else to the business, and now we do quite a lot of film and television work with presenters, and we do a lot of other speaking work for our novelists and kind of non-fiction people. So I think that's probably where we're a bit different from a lot of other agencies. It's kind of more of a 300, it's an awful phrase, but it's kind of 360-degree representation. So we do, you know, some days I'll be doing work on a manuscript, and then other days I'll be organising people's taxis and flights to America and dietary requirements and all of that sort of thing, which maybe isn't what I got into the business for, but it's entertaining nevertheless, and actually really interesting and applicable to books, because you start seeing just the sort of the level of demands that people can make, and then you start trying to make those demands on publishers, and it's amazing how receptive they can be. So that's more or less what we do. I've been working in the industry for about 5 years, on and off, and when I came out of uni I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do, so I went into the city, worked there for a while, got horribly depressed, and decided I couldn't do it forever, so I left. I just left and decided to do work experience. Just kind of spent a year working at various publishers and agencies, and then got a job at a small independent publisher called Old Street Publishing. They were around the corner from here actually, but they're no longer in London, despite their name. So I worked there in editorial, and that was great because there were kind of 4 people, and I got to see the whole process through from beginning where we buy, you know, and we were taking unsolicited, so I used to spend a lot of time reading all the unsolicited, so it's a really good kind of learning experience, and then I'd see it all the way through. So whereas if you work in editorial somewhere in a bigger house, you might have to let go at the time the book's published. I was involved in the marketing and everything beyond that. And then from there I went to Macmillan, worked in editorial there as well, and then left there, went to do a master's in publishing, and as part of that course I had to go and do a placement. So it's Blake Friedman Agency, and that placement turned into a job, and then I spent a year there and came to Greene and Heaton maybe 3 years ago. Started building my list after a year. And then, since then, I kind of represent a broad range of things. So, the first things I started off doing have mainly been non-fiction projects, although actually I thought I was going to be when I first started I thought I was only going to represent fiction. So, I mean, I've sold a couple of books on design, cookbook, doing a deal for a book on black holes at the moment, and telescopes. And I'm doing another one on belief, kind of a popular science thing on belief, but then all of the things that I have coming up after that are going to be fiction, and I've got a range, nothing, my taste is probably quite male in the fiction world, although I do have a novel that's kind of a funny young adult, new adult kind of thing for the girls' generation, so it's kind of it's a book about a girl who graduates. It's probably I probably just saw something myself in it. She graduates, doesn't have a clue what to do, and goes back to her summer camp because she's discovered that she's got one badge. She thought she had all the badges you could get to summer camp, but she doesn't. She's got one missing. So she goes back to find herself. Yeah, to kind of find herself and complete the one thing that she thought she completed.
You can't even know, tell us what the badge is.
Well, it was for an overnight expedition, but when she gets there, she discovers that they've discontinued it. They can't do it because one girl went on the overnight expedition. The only girl they ever allowed to go ruined lots of camp and then I'm doing, you know, some thrillers, some, I've got a historical fantasy novel, although I don't tend to read much fantasy. And then a few literary novels, but the literary things that I like don't tend to be the very high concept literary stuff. So I can't really get to grips with, say, a Tom McCarthy. That novel C is tough for me, but I loved The Art of Fielding, I like Jonathan Franzen style novels, and that sort of more accessible literary stuff really appeals, as does quirky stuff. So just really, I mean, everyone says it, but really interesting new voices and that sort of thing. In terms of what I'm looking for, is everyone here writing fiction? No. So in non-fiction, I really like kind of popular science, ideas-y stuff. I don't read a lot of memoir, I haven't done a lot of memoir, but that's not to say I wouldn't if there was something unusual about it, or if the writing was really, really brilliant. And in fiction, I'd really, really love to find a crime or thriller writer, a crime and thriller writer, lots more kind of accessible literary fiction. And also I wouldn't mind finding some kind of women's reading group stuff, although to be completely honest, I don't read a great deal of it, so you might have better luck with an agent who knows a bit more, but of course everyone wants to find those sorts of authors because they sell books and publishers really want them. Yeah, then in terms of how to submit to me, I guess at Greene and Heaton I think everyone takes email submissions now, don't they? You don't get anyone that says they don't. So we take them by post and by email, but we do tend to get a lot by email. I was looking, I've been away, and I came back on yesterday. I've been away for 9 days, and I had 270 email submissions.
Oh,
yeah, which is a lot to get through. That seems to be the bulk of our submissions, and actually if you just submit, we have a submissions address for, it's just submissions@greenheaton.co.uk, but our policy on those is that we don't reply unless we're interested in seeing a full manuscript or taking things further. Now, because you've all come to see me, I'm going to say, don't just for you though, don't spread this around, otherwise I'm loads. I'll reply to all of you if you email me, if you submit to me at my personal address, and we'll give out details later. That's fine, it's just easy. I don't actually like receiving postal submissions, really. In terms of what to put in your submission, just 3 chapters. Please make them the first 3 chapters. Often people will say, I don't want to send the first 3 because they're not my best 3. Why say that? I'll find out for myself when I read the full thing which are the best 3 chapters. So yeah, first 3 chapters or 50 pages. I mean, if the first 3 chapters are only 10 pages, then send me 50 pages. In the covering letter, just a really straightforward covering letter. Really, you don't need to. But we see because we see so many. It's not like they don't really stand out for me if someone's funny or anything. I'd just like to know who you are, a paragraph on what the book is, and yeah, any relevant experience. That's fine for a covering letter for me. And with synopses, I don't read them unless I've read the 3 chapters and really want and intrigued to find out what happens next. So please don't worry too much about. I know they must be really difficult to write. I've never tried to write them, but they must be really difficult. And please don't attach too much importance to it, because if I've enjoyed it enough to read 50 pages, the likelihood is I'm going to ask for the full thing and read the full thing. So the only thing a synopsis can tell me is that the author's gone wrong somewhere. I just basically want to see beginning, middle, and end. That there's kind of a narrative arc. And that's more or less it. you know, so, and I don't want maybe it to feel like a normal crime novel for the first 50 pages, but then for you know, intergalactic mice to turn up 2/3 through. So if I read this, and if I get to that part of the synopsis and that's happened, then I probably won't request the full thing. But yeah, I think just 1 to 2 pages is fine for a synopsis, kind of beginning, middle, and end. Maybe introduce your main characters, and that's about it.